Okay guys, so in previous video we saw what are value types and we talked about the features. So let's implement this functionality through Eclipse and see the impact. So close all. I'm going to create a new entity class. Inside this I'll create a class. First create address and I will add these fields there like private int pin code, then string city, then state, and let's have country as well. Okay, and then let's generate its getter setters. Done. So we are not going to mark this class at entity or not going to use any primary key because we are going to embed this class somewhere inside student class. So we already have student class, and for our example let's change this student to something else because we already have this entity in our database. So let's make it employee. Employee can have different address as well. Employee. Okay. Oops, we already have employee. Sorry. Let's make worker. Okay, so worker ID, name, age, and then address. So going to create a new class. This class is going to be a entity class. So pick class, name it worker. Then let's mark this class as at entity. Let's have primary key. So private int ID. Then private string name. Then we will have int age. And finally that object we have just created earlier, that address field, address, and let's create its certificates. Okay, it's done. Now we have to test this whole thing, so let's create its tester. So let's create, I'm just copy pasting this class, worker tester. There it is, worker tester is here. Let's empty this so we can have our basic skeleton of our Hibernate project. Okay, so there we are. If you guys were following it, so you know how it works. So I'm just keeping the skeleton of this whole code. Now in between we will create our objects. So first of all, let's make this class at id, and the primary key needed, and let's auto generate this. So generated value, let's fix strategy equals identity. Okay, this is done. Let's create object of address first. So address equals new address, then address dot set pin, then let's set other fields like city, let's say Delhi, let's set state, this is also going to be Delhi, and set country, it's going to be India. Okay, that's done. Now let's create object of um, wait a second, address. Okay, so string type. Let's fix its getter setters because it's not going to be int, it's going to be string type. Okay, now create object of worker. So worker is here, worker, then worker dot set ID not required because that's going to auto generate. Let's make it 25. Worker dot set name. Let's say, and worker dot set address. So we already have this address object and it's done. Now let's say session dot save. That's the final step towards saving any object. We saw that in CRUD operations. So that's it. Okay, so code is ready. Let's try to run this code. So right click, run as an application. Okay, So it's running and we are getting exception. So what just happened? Hibernate fails to understand the type. It says unknown entity worker. So we need to map our entity in configuration file as well. So just opening the configuration file. Let's get one more entry, and here we have to map the worker entity class. Again, it's done. Okay, database is also opening. So registration is done. Let's run the tester again. Run as application. Okay, still we are getting error. What it says, that could not determine the type of address. Again, haven't failed to understand the type of address. Worker is fine now because we have registered that worker as an entity in configuration file, but haven't failed to understand the column, this address column, which is mapped right here inside the worker class there. So here we have to use at embedded, and this tells us that this is not an entity class, it's an embedded object. Where from it's coming? It's from coming here. So here you have to use embeddable. So this is not an entity class, it's an embeddable object. So once we mark these annotation at top of our class, so Hibernate understood it. Okay, says okay. So we are not going to treat this as entity class. It's something which supports the actual entity object, that is worker here. Okay, let's run this code one more time after adding these two annotations. Right click, run as application, and okay, now what happens? Hibernate creates a table worker with certain columns and then inserts a record inside a worker object. Okay, let's quickly take a look what just happened. Okay, close all. CloudRaga database. There it is. Here open. Okay, there's a worker class. If I select and select rows, so we are getting all the records in this table. So you can see ID, age, name. These were from worker, but city, country, pin code, and state are from worker class. So you can see Hibernate does not create a separate entity or a table for that address class. It just embeds all of its fields inside a main entity class, that is worker. So that's how we can embed our object into another if you want to, if you don't want to create any separate table for your other object. Okay, so thanks for watching this video guys. If you have any question or query, make sure you're writing in the comment section. Let's meet in next video.